The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Begsy, did you ever sleep with a teddy bear back in the day? Is that a thing you did?
No. You know why? Because there's only one Teddy I need, and that's Teddy Blueger, baby.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and also a Canucks writer since 2013, writing for Daily Hive, Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you. I'm talking to you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. You know why? Because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Make sure you go subscribe, like, follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And you know why? Because, again, it's late July and we're still doing your Canucks every damn day. Even though, some of us might not be 100%. We got to be here for the people. And before we get into today's episode talking about the biggest secret on the Vancouver Canucks, we got to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. He's definitely not one of the sexiest players in the Vancouver Canucks, but maybe the sexiest name. And one of the guys that is certainly lost in the roster shuffle here as we talk about, we spend time talking about all the new additions to the team. But is there a chance that Teddy Blueger might be the biggest secret on the Vancouver Canucks? Maybe one of the biggest secret weapons heading into next season. Let's talk about that today. Maybe get into a little bit of Blueger versus Suter. And what does the center market for free agency look like in 2024, 2025 if the Canucks decide to move in another direction? All that and more coming up. But before we do that, let me introduce my co-host, Kyle Bowen. What's going on, brother?
Man, oh man, again, off the top, we asked the question, right? Did you sleep with the teddy bear back in the day? Now, if you fast forward to the now, I feel as if it's a damn shame, like a big damn shame, an evil damn shame that children past the ages of 9 and 10 are probably sleeping with a smartphone versus a teddy bear.
Whew.
Bro, man, we're going to lose to the robots because we're not sleeping with teddy bears, okay? Do the math. I'm not wrong. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs at the Don't Doze Art Lab, giving you the West Coast bias, Locked On Canucks. Hit the like button, subscribe, and leave us a review on the podcast side as well. Give us that 5-star rating. We're trying to do big things, man. And the ups, bro, I'm telling you, they like those ratings. Anyways, Teddy Blueger, right? I think this is an important conversation. Do the Canucks need this guy to play like he did from November to January? Obviously, they'd love that. And they kind of need that too. I'm curious to see the research that Trevor did in regards to some of the UFAs in the center market for next offseason, right? Who could be some possible rental pickups that could replace Teddy Blueger as that third line seat if possible? And is that even possible considering that the Canucks still need, in theory, a top 4 defenseman? How much moving and shuffling can you do? Look at the asset management, right? Look at the cupboard. Pretty slim. Does Teddy Blueger or Pia Suter have to be that guy? I think so. And I think Teddy is that guy. Real talk. Okay. There was a large stretch of time there before Rick Tocchet and the Dakota Joshua injury kind of ended that chemistry that he had with Garland and Joshua. There was a big time there where that line was dominant. It was fluid. It was instinctful. And I think there's a big chance that happens once again, once this season starts up in 40 days, 60 days? You know what I'm saying? Can Teddy Blueger be the third line center? I think so.
Well, he's done it once before, right? And, we talked about it throughout the season that not only could he be a third line center, but realistically, he was performing like a second line center through a chunk of last season when he was playing with Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland. Now, of course, he didn't keep that up, right? And you could, I know, Kyle, I know you first and foremost, you want to point to the line mates because you love a little Blueger sandwich, a little Teddy sandwich, if you will. Um, but he's certainly not the guy who's necessarily going to carry a line on his own, right? And there's a reason why. And again, the Canucks signed him to a great contract, but there's a reason why he's on a 2-year deal, paying him $1.8 million per season. Is that, I think the Canucks, if he can be a third line center, he's playing above his contract. But realistically, he's being paid like a fourth line center. And there's budget options for the Canucks because they, both Suter and Blueger are being paid like fourth line centers. But obviously, we saw it last season. Both guys are playing up the lineup. Now, Teddy Blueger never been known to be a big shooter or anything like that, but I do wonder if maybe there's a bit more puck luck to come his way next season. I mean, the guy only had 6 goals last season, was on a big cold streak through the latter part of the season there. Kyle, is there any more scoring or offense to Teddy Blueger's? I think we know that defensively, he's got the chops, right? He's going to be one of the top penalty killers on this team, especially now that Lindholm is not in the situation. So Teddy Blueger is mainly going to be judged on what he does defensively, but there has to be a baseline offensively. He brought up in terms of points, right? But again, only 6 goals, I believe, on the season. So do you think they're level offensively to his game? And I think there's going to have to be if we're going to tout this guy as potentially one of the biggest secret weapons on your Vancouver.
Oh, yeah. We're reaching, bro. This is an episode based on a lot of irrationality. And also, again, the whole, we want to make sure our children are sleeping with teddy bears and not tablets, okay? The Locked on Canucks is deeper than just hockey, okay? Now, Trevor, I don't know if you have your computer in front of you. Oh, yeah, you do. Can you check, what Teddy's point totals were from, November to January, what those splits were? Because, again, based on the eye test and based on the stats, I mean, we saw another level to Teddy's game. He was cerebral. He was quick. He played with a lot of tenacity, and that had a lot to do with, again, what Garland and Joshua were doing around him. Now, if we talk about what he does as a complementary piece to those two guys, I think it's his intelligence, his effort level. He's tenacious. Patrick Alvin talks about it, right? One of the guys that they brought in last year to make sure that people came into camp in shape. This guy's fit. He can skate. He can do his thing. And when he's on, and like anyone in life, when you're confident, you have a different mojo to you. And now, and I guess what I'm trying to say is if Blueger can find that chemistry with Joshua and Garland, then yeah, you kind of get this new guy, this guy that's not Teddy Blueger. Okay, he's Theodore Blueger. Okay, when this happens, okay, he evolves to Theodore Blueger when he's playing with Garland and Joshua. It's not similar because Brendan Morrison was a really good player, but look what Bertuzzi and Naslund did for Morrison. Okay, remember what Henrik and Daniel did for Alexander Burrows? I feel like Garland and Joshua, real talk, I'm not even joking, because chemistry is a huge thing, and chemistry is different amongst all players, and there's a different level of chemistry that they have with Suter than they do with Blueger. I just think, and I know that if it happens in training camp and these guys are firing, that we will see a guy that's not supposed to be making 1.8 per year. We can get a Teddy Blueger that's supposed to be making 2.6, 2.75, a whole new guy for your Vancouver Canucks. If again, that chemistry with Blueger and Joshua is real and back.
And hey, if you missed our lineup episode, that's what Kyle's touting, right? Kyle's telling you right now that on opening night, it's going to be Blueger, Joshua, and Garland all back together, all right? But, I do think there's a chance that there is some more offense to his game. And again, he's had the most success with Joshua and Garland. So if you're going to go by that logic, I mean, there's certainly a good chance that those guys recreate their chemistry. But, Kyle, you want to see those split stats from Teddy Blueger. I mean, really, he had 2 months last season, and we know what they are. There was December and January where he tore it up playing with Joshua and Garland. I mean, that line was just on absolute fire. So in December and January, he had 25 games played. He had 4 goals, 15 assists, and 19 points. So 19 points in 25 games for a guy who, again, was a healthy scratch through most of the 2023 playoffs with the Vegas Golden Knights. So it was an unreal performance. You could see the chemistry on the ice. It was evident. Defensively, they were incredibly sound, did not give up much. But if you want to look at the flip side of it, here were his numbers in the rest of the season, right? So in the rest of the season, let's see quickly. There was 23, 35, 43 games. In 43 games, he had 2 goals. And, oh my God, 2 goals, 2, 4, 7, 9. 2 goals and 8 points in 43 games. So it was a completely different player from the one we saw in December and January, where he was clicking with Joshua and Garland. They were helping each other out in terms of burying the puck, burying those chances. But again, Teddy Blueger also went on a streak of having almost like 70 shots before finally scoring a goal in April. I believe he had 30 plus games without scoring a goal too. So look, I do think there's potentially another level to Blueger's game, because I think there's could be some more puck luck coming his way. But he's also got to play with linemen you're going to produce as well, or else I don't think there's any chance he gets close to 30 points again, or let's say doesn't get close, but hits 30 points again.
Dude, having 19 points in 25 games is that's a streak. I don't want to connect it too much with being a fluke, but if you just look at the film, there was no line for the Vancouver Canucks when it comes to the totality of a line, right? The trio of that chemistry. Like there was no trio on the Canucks that was better than those three when they were all going all season long. I'm talking all the way to the playoffs. I'm talking whoever was playing with Miller and Besser. There was no trio that was better. And the Canucks offense, let's be real, let's be honest. Yeah, it looked a lot different when Joshua came out of the lineup, but it never looked the same when the best third line in hockey wasn't back doing its thing. And I'll quote unquote die on this claim. And maybe Rick Tocchet will say something similar in December when he just witnessed another 2 months of the best third line in hockey doing its thing. But it was a huge mistake. One of the biggest mistakes Rick Tocchet made last year, not going back to that line consistently enough. Such a huge mistake. In fact, it's so confusing. It doesn't make any sense why he never chose to give that a long leash when Joshua came back, but he was open to giving McCabe the longest leash with Pettersson. Honestly, it was really stupid. Now, it was a little confusing because Lindholm was there too, and things kind of got just like remixed a bit. And you don't want Lindholm playing with Sam Lafferty. I get it, but it just never was the same when that line was broken apart. It really wasn't. The Canucks are sexier when the teddy bear is Theodore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they should do a teddy bear toss next season just for Teddy Blueger.
Yeah.
Kyle, on the other side, one thing I want to look at is Teddy Blueger versus Pius Suter, because offensively, Pius Suter was a better player, but who is going to have the better season next year, and who should Canuck fans be more excited about? Maybe who is the secret weapon? Is it Teddy Blueger or is it Pius Suter? Let's talk about that on the other side. Before we do that, we got to shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, it's the offseason, baby. So you know what? There's not much sports going on. But you know what? FanDuel, they still got you covered, okay? Because all summer long, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And hey, you know what? There might not be that many sports right now, but you got the Olympics in action and you got the CFL in action, okay? The BC Lions back in action this weekend. So like they say in this ad read, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. If you have any gambling troubles, go get some help, okay? Numbers in the disclaimer in this episode. But we got to let you know that, again, FanDuel, they're the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
People, we are back doing this, and that's talking about Theodore, a.k.a. Teddy Blueger, a.k.a. Teddy Bears in general. Trevor, again, you're the father of the program, 2 children. How many teddy bears do you have in your household? Is this a thing in 2024? I mean, I feel as if it wasn't that much of a thing in like the early 2000s. I feel like the teddy bear was possibly one of the first toys ever invented. If you really think about it, maybe it was so prominent in like the 60s, the 50s, the 40s, the 70s. But yeah, how many teddy bears do you have in the house right now?
Oh, you know what? I got kids' toys coming out my bumhole, but it's probably about 3 or 4 teddy bears in our house, to be honest. Not my daughter's like chosen toy or favorite toy or her like favorite cuddly toy, but yeah, there's probably like, I want to say 3 teddy bears in my house, maybe.
Shout out to teddy bears and shout out to the listeners of Locked On Canucks. Doing their thing, okay? It's early in the morning. It's a Monday. It feels like a Monday for me. I'm rambling. I'm all over the place. I'm stumbling over my words. Okay, for real. It just feels a little different today, okay? July 29th. It's raining outside, and we're here talking about third line centers for your Vancouver Canucks, okay? Me and Trevor are so addicted to your favorite hockey team. Anyways, Pius Suter versus Teddy Blueger. I think it is safe to say that yeah, you know what? In October, when Teddy Blueger was hurt, Suter was doing a fine job with Joshua and Garland as well. So let me throw it to you, okay? Let's throw the teddy bear bias to the side. Who would you rather have down the middle? Because in the second half of the season and in the playoffs, Suter was twice the player offensively than Teddy Blueger was.
Yeah, and I mean, I think both guys have struggled with their finish, right? But overall, I think Suter was the better player last season, and I do think that if Suter didn't get hurt and it wasn't Blueger replacing him on his line, that I think Suter would have, been a benefactor of Joshua Garland as well, because I think that line was just starting to build some chemistry in November while Blueger was hurt, while Suter was on that line. And again, once Blueger came into the fold, plays a very similar game to Suter. I think the results would have been similar. And, I kind of look at the performances from last season, both in the playoffs and during the regular season. I think Suter's offensive numbers are certainly helped out by the fact that he does play a lot of wing too, right? He bounces around the lineup a bit more. He gets more opportunities with star players. But his defensive metrics are also stellar too. Like Suter is a really smart, slick defensive player. I think he's got a bit more speed to his game than Teddy Blueger as well. So I don't know, man. When I think about secret weapons or Swiss Army knives, if you will, no pun intended, with the Swiss Suter, I think Suter is definitely more of a jack of all trades guy. He's a guy that excites me a bit more than Teddy Blueger. Now I think when we did our lineup projections, we both had Suter though as the fourth line center, and for different reasons, right? I think you wanted to see Blueger, Joshua, and Garland back together on the third line, whereas I wanted to see kind of a defensively responsible line with Teddy Blueger and have a fourth line with more offensive pop, because I believe Suter does have a bit more of a higher offensive ceiling. So I know you put Teddy in the title. I'm sorry to Bob Blueger, one of our top commenters, but in terms of secret weapons, guys who get me excited going to next season, I think Suter's the guy that gets me a little bit more excited.
And like, again, to answer the question, like, would you rather have him down the middle with Garland and Joshua? I know in your projections you had Miller playing with those two, but let's just be real, okay? Like, if those two wingers are still bottom six wingers, who do you want playing with them? Blueger or Suter? Because to me, it's still by a landslide. It's Teddy Blueger because, bro, 19 points in 25 games when that line was together prior to Joshua's injury. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay. And even if you watch the film against the Chicago Blackhawks, the game where Joshua got into a fight, and we'll talk about that specific choice from Joshua in a couple minutes. But even in that game, if you watch the film, go watch the highlights. It's early in the morning. Look how good that line was against an AHL team in the Chicago Blackhawks. But I guess what I'm trying to say is they had no signs of stopping, bro. They had no signs of stopping. It wasn't going to stop. Joshua breaks his wrist because he's fighting for Garland's life at the end of a third period. If that doesn't happen, bro, Teddy Blueger's probably putting up 42 points last season. Because that chemistry was real, dude. That chemistry was sexy. It wasn't going to stop. It wasn't going to stop.
Yeah, I also think there's an argument too. And you know what, man? I feel like we're on different sides, man. So I'm hitting the button here. Let's go. Begsy versus Bowen. Look, you make that argument that, Teddy Blueger, 19 points in 25 games. And I kind of said this a few minutes ago. I think if Suter standing on that line, he would have had the exact same success that Teddy Blueger has. I think those two were completely interchangeable on that line. And again, Suter was just there at a time where the line was building chemistry, really good baseline defensively. But Teddy Blueger really benefited from the fact that, Joshua and Garland had, were on the uprise by the time December came around. With Suter, though, like, look at the point totals from last season. Like, they're very similar to Teddy Blueger. But if Suter was with Joshua and Garland, I wonder if they would have been a bit higher, right? So
I don't know, man. Blueger's faster, man. I think that speed
with faster.
I think he's faster, dude. I think he's like a stride or two faster. And I think there's I know you're gonna go on NHLEdge.com and like look at top speed analytical numbers right now, but I just think that the way Teddy Blueger attacks via the forecheck complements Connor Garland or Dakota Joshua, like whoever's right beside him, or there's just a different level of chemistry there. And again, this is with me saying open-heartedly that I know in October when Suter was playing with Garland and Joshua, things were looking cool too. They were. But 19 points in 25 games for Teddy Blueger during that 25-game stretch mark, it just it brought up a new gear to this team offensively. And that's so crazy because we're talking about Teddy Blueger. I know I sound like an idiot. This guy was a black ace 2 years ago, okay? This guy had 2 goals in his last 40-something games last year. But I think there's some untapped potential here, and we'll get to this on the other side. I just feel as if the Canucks have to do everything. Rick Tocchet has to do everything, okay, to find that chemistry again because, man, oh, man, you do not want this team trading another first and third round pick for a third line center. You know what I'm saying? To take the team over the top, to replace Lindholm. You know how you replace Lindholm? You somehow get that Teddy Blueger back.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it last season. They were kind of similar players in a lot of ways, right? Especially regular season Lindholm. There was a strong argument that Teddy Blueger was actually better than Lindholm, at least the version we saw in the regular season. I'm going to leave it up to the commenters. Let us know in the comments, who do you think is the bigger secret weapon for the Vancouver Canucks, and who do you want to see as the third line center or the guy with Joshua Garland? Is it Teddy Blueger or is it Pius Suter? We got Stephen Wong in the comments saying, I think Blueger's a bit better at puck retrievals than Suter, and that compliments Garland. Yeah, I think there's something to be said there, although I think both players are pretty good at puck retrievals in general. And Kyle, I did look at the speed stats, and it looks like Teddy Blueger, according to the numbers, is just a tad faster. You know, he's slightly above average, whereas Pius Suter is slightly below average.
Yep, there you go, buddy.
But so, anyways, both NHL players. Suter gets my groin, my loins flowing a bit more than Teddy Blueger, but curious to see where they line up next season. I think Suter finishes with more points. And last season, again, I'll pull up one more stat here. You know, I look at the game score a lot. HockeyStatCards.com, our friends over there. Pius Suter was the 8th most effective Canuck last season, cracking the top 10 in terms of the value that he gave this hockey team. The only guys above him were all the stars, Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua. So it was a hell of a season from Pius Suter, who analytically was ahead of Teddy Blueger, both defensively and offensively. And more consistency to his game last season as well. Again, Teddy Blueger was missing that later in the season. But let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. We're going to cut to break. On the other side, talk about if the Canucks, don't love their bottom 6 centers with Blueger and Suter, are there any free agents on expiring contracts who they might target via trade? Let's get into that on the other side here on Locked On Canucks.
People, we back doing this, and that's giving you another episode of Locked On Canucks, okay? My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. And as always, on these Monday episodes, it takes about 20 minutes to get things going, okay? For real. For real. It feels like hockey, though. I'm not going to lie. If you look outside right now, it feels like it's September 18th, and these conversations that we're having right now are of prominence, and everyone's talking about Suter versus Blueger, and ultimately, if the Vancouver Canucks need to, upgrade that center position in their bottom 6 via, trade and just giving Garland and Joshua somebody else, okay? Like they kind of did last year with Elias Lindholm. Now, before we get into some of those candidates, I want to talk about something pretty important, okay? For real, okay? Look at Infamous, okay? One of the most educated commenters on our show, okay? Part of the Discord, too. Join the Discord, link in the bio, okay? It's the best place to talk about the Canucks on the toilet. I know it's been slow over the last couple of days. Dude, it's the summer, okay? Anyways, look at Infamous. Dakota Joshua cannot get injured fighting again, okay? You can't do it. Now, again, in Chicago, right when that line was at its hottest, there's like 2 minutes left in the game. I think the Canucks are up by 2 goals, if I'm correct. And some no-name hits Garland, and Joshua's like, you can't do that. That's my best friend. That's my lineup. We have the best line in hockey. Again, the whole Bertuzzi-Naslund thing, okay? I'm not going to say this was Steve Moore all over again, but it was something, okay? Dakota Joshua was like, I got to do something about it. He fights the dude who hit Garland, and he breaks his hand. And boom, just like that, the best third line in hockey is no more, okay? For real. For real. Going back to that situation, if you're Dakota Joshua, are you doing that again? Probably. He seems like that type of guy, great teammate. But moving forward, knowing how important he is, not to just the third line, but the penalty kill and everything Vancouver Canucks, like, do you want this guy playing the all the time enforcer role?
No, I don't. And I don't think anyone on the Canucks necessarily has to, but he's certainly one of the guys that's going to play that game. But in terms of the toughest guys in this team, the guys that are really going to bang and crash and make the opposition frustrated, be physical, be in the scrums. It's probably the defense, right? It's Myers, it's Forboard, it's Desharnais. I mean, up front, there's just not that many guys who are going to get mixed up and be in the battle as much as Dakota Joshua, right? Like it's JT Miller, maybe Jake DeBrusk. But so Dakota Joshua really is the guy who's going to mix it up. And I think, like you said, he's a teammate first guy. I think he's going to be in those battles no matter what. Depending on how his hand's feeling and the experience he went to, he might hesitate in that situation again. But I think for the most part, you're an intense guy. Someone messes with your teammate, you get in there and you stand up for him. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fight. But, you think about from when that had happened to when the gloves were dropped, there was not much thinking, right? It was instinct. And instinct is hard to change. So I don't know. Maybe Dakota Joshua, based on how his hands feeling on what happened, maybe he would hesitate to do it again. But I have a feeling that, based on his instincts and based on the guy he is, like nothing would change if that situation were to play out in, let's say, February of 2025.
Dude, he's a good brother, man. He's a good brother. Now, Trevor, if we were out together and somebody attacked you, I'd let my instincts take over too, man. And you know the deal. I've always told the story, man. If I'm ever getting into a street fight, I'm kicking some dude in the balls right away. Like I'm not here to talk about my integrity or talk about my fighting ethics. Like I'm there to survive. So if somebody jumps you, Trevor, but I'm telling you, man, I'm handing out a free vasectomy, okay? For real. For real. And I'm saving the day. Anyways, speaking of saving the day, can the Canucks survive and be a contender if Teddy Blueger and Pius Suter are actually your third line centers? Or do they have to do it again? And that's blow up the cupboards and trade Archie Bangs in the second round pick to get a guy who can be a rental third line center. Like who's available if, again, the Canucks need to replace Teddy Blueger on the third line?
Yeah, so let me just rip through some of the the centers who are going to be unrestricted free agents by the time, for next season, right? Guys who are on expiring contracts that'll finish in 2025. And to answer your first question, I think the Canucks, they can win with Suter and Blueger as your third and fourth line centers. They absolutely can. But things happen, things change, and hey, who knows? Maybe Alvin gets a little trigger happy. He has been one of the most active general managers in the NHL since entering the league. But let me just rip off some names in terms of guys who are expiring free agents who could be available by the time the 2025 trade deadline rolls around. Okay, you got Ryan Johansson, only 31 years old, career's kind of fallen off. Claude Giroux, Brock Nelson in New York, Yanni Gordon, Seattle, Miguel Granlund, San Jose, Alex Kerfoot, Vancouver native with the Utah Hockey Club. Let's see. We got Jack Roslovic as well, who's just a free agent. Lars Eller, Trent Frederick, Mason Appleton, Nick Bugstad. Those are some of the names that I'm seeing right now in terms of free agents. Jake Evans is another one as well. We've had that name mentioned in our comments. But kind of the big ones were the one I listed off the top. Now, do any of those names have appeal to you as guys who could fill in for Pius Suter and Teddy Blueger at the trade deadline? Or are you looking for a bigger fish? Sidney Crosby's also a free agent, if you want me to throw that out there, unless he's resigned.
Honestly, the one name that really stands out for me that I think I'd be more than open to bringing into Vancouver. That being said, I know it would cost an arm and a leg, and also you'd have to pay the divisional tax, right? It's Yanni Gorg, if I said his name right. I know that based on the games I've watched, based on his runs with Tampa, there's another level of tenacity there. There's also another level of intelligence there. And I mean, he could play with really anyone. Like he's top, he's just too uber talented. He really is one of the most underrated players out there. And you just know that guy would work with Connor Garland and Dakota Joshua. Like you just know, you already know.
Yeah.
You already know that would be. You want to talk about the best third line in hockey theoretically being centered by Teddy Blueger, bro? It would be centered by Yanni Gorg if his wingers were those guys. But again, I just don't. The Vancouver Canucks, man. I know. I've been on this boat for a while, and maybe people get annoyed by it because you got to win now. But I can't stomach them just giving up more first-round picks and whatnot. You know. Like, this would be a good time for them to just, try to win with this core, try to win with this group of players, and just kind of stock the cupboards at the same time. Because if they're making a trade for Yanni, bro, you're looking at the worst prospect pool ever. Ever, bro. And you can't even make an argument, bro. It's just the truth.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's something we should dive into here in the weeks ahead. Is Canucks prospects? How does it rank across the rest of the NHL? I think Lekarimäki and Willander, with Lekarimäki's good season last year with Willander, is better than it was maybe last summer. To the opinion of it, but an entity prospect pool is one of the lesser ones in hockey. We all know that. So I tend to agree with you. I mean, the Canucks are gonna be hard pressed to give up a lot of assets for rental, and if they do, it probably should be a defenseman. I think Teddy Blueger and Pius Suter, unless there are injuries, knock on wood, are going to be just fine in the roles that they're in. Speaking of fine, bro, I'm proud of you, man. You kept it together last week while I was, dealing with some ailments. I'm still dealing with a couple things. You might see me wearing the heart sunglasses on YouTube because I got love for the listeners. I got love for you, buddy. I also want to hide my goopy pink eyes from the screen here. But I appreciate you and the episodes you dropped last week, man. You're the MVP, bro.
No, we're both MVPs, and the people are the MVP too. It is what it is. And just another comment about the whole Yanni thing, right? Is it Yanni Gord? Gord? Like, how do you say his last name? Like,
yeah, Yanni Gord. Yeah.
Okay, so again, the Canucks, things move so quick sometimes in life, and you don't really understand like what's happening. And before you know it, the Canucks just made one of their biggest trades in franchise history. Okay, for real, the Lindholm trade was a big package, and it was a big rental package. And can the Vancouver Canucks afford to give up that much for a rental for 30 games again? Like, if they're making a trade for Yanni and they're giving all that up, they got to find a way to extend this guy right away. You know how the Vancouver Canucks had a chance to do so with Zadorov? When Zadorov was willing to extend with the Canucks right when he got here, and they didn't, they got to make sure that if they're going down this, we're going after a UFA center via the trade, let's try signing this guy too, especially if he's a guy like Yanni, and they're going to have to give up a first and a prospect for that dude. Anyways, one more comment I want to get to because, man, oh man, okay, Vancouver is my life with a cool comment, okay? He's saying, I love the Canucks and I miss hockey too, but stop saying you want hockey back, okay? I don't want summer to go and blah, blah, blah. It's like saying you want Monday back when we are in Friday. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when it's a Friday. Look, I'm not going to front, Trevor. I'm so excited for the hockey season. It's not that I'm willing to sacrifice my summer to get it back ASAP, but I would not be disappointed, okay? Real talk. If I just woke up and it was September 17th and we were like in the middle of training camp, dude, I'm in love with the Vancouver Canucks again. And last time I checked, they're the first love of my life. And hockey is exciting. Vancouver's Vancouver again. And I would actually trade my summer for Canucks hockey right now. I would. I'm not even joking, bro. Like that's it, man. I love sports and the Canucks are back and this is fun and we're blessed, man. Anyways, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs at the Dodo's Art Lab. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on the podcast side, give us a 5-star review. It helps Trevor and I get better Christmas gifts, okay? Christmas is coming up. Christmas is coming up, and happy wife, happy life, okay? That's all I'm saying. Okay? Anyways, Beggsy, sign us out.
Yeah, you're hilarious, man. Hey, let's not rush through the summer. We got you covered here, Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every day. Enjoy the summer, and the season will be back before you know it. Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, the first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you families, and your dogs too. Again, stay tuned, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts because we got you covered. Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs, and that guy's Kyle Bound, and you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace, 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 peace.